Certainly. I mean, risk management done correctly is also about opportunity management and being able to leverage risk for the business. Too often seen as the threat, hazard, and harm instead of a strategic tool to navigate and align the business. I'm a huge science fiction fan, and in that context, I love Star Trek. And one of my favorite Star Trek episodes of the original series, you have Captain Kirk that states, "Our business is risk management." As he, encourages everybody to go on this mission. That, and there's opportunities, outcomes. There's a reason for that. There's objectives for that mission. But our business is risk management. U.S. President Teddy Roosevelt, from over a century ago, he stated, "Risk is like fire. If controlled, it will help you. If uncontrolled, it will rise up and destroy you." A U.S. naval hero, John Paul Jones, when we were in the Revolutionary War 250 years ago, trying to fight for independence from Great Britain, he stated, "It seems to be a law of nature, inflexible and inexorable, that those who do not risk do not win." Risk is part of life. In this context, risk is part of war, but risk is part of business. If you're not taking risk, guess what? You're out of business. Risk is part of business. And Judge Mervyn King from South Africa stated that so well. Judge Mervyn King is the impetus for the King 1, 2, 3, and 4 reports on corporate governance. He said, business is the undertaking of risk for reward. Businesses take risk to make money. So we need risk-informed decision-making. We need to be able to balance risk and opportunity as a form of risk-informed decision-making. And with that, we need to make strategic decisions that have been enhanced by an understanding of potential risks and opportunities so that we can leverage and engage and provide value to the organization so it can achieve its objectives or even exceed those objectives. This means that we need to have dynamic strategic planning that incorporates both risk and opportunities into that, and that risk management is not an impediment, but a companion to opportunity seeking.
I would add that the sort of the strategic thinking process often is, of course, derived from the existing sort of strategy or the existing objectives, and then you sort of redesign your current sort of understanding, current business. Very rarely the strategy process is completely renewing the strategy objectives and offerings and client base and services of the organization. And the organizations then tend to be in this sort of let's say delusion that we don't have any new risks coming from the horizon, and they don't use sort of a strategic let's say critical information requirements, or they don't often determine what are our critical information requirements to make these decisions, strategic decisions. And one thing that I would love to see is that the risk management function in the organization is invited actually into the risk management or into the strategy processes to determine what sort of information we can gather to support these strategic decisions, what sort of methodologies we have to make better decisions. To have an open dialogue between the risk management function and the strategy team. How could we make better decisions? And then I'm certain that the risk management team would be motivated and equipped to bring in different sort of templates and models how to support the decision-making process, rather than giving them a set of objectives and then analyzing risk on them. And I would say that the sort of organizations should always, when they're defining their must-win battles or the next big 5 moves, what are our most important moves in terms of building our own capabilities and then honing our organization or restructuring, because we want to tap into the opportunities that some technology or market provides us. And then how do you actually utilize risk management function to really go through the risks and opportunities of those must-win battles or strategic moves in order to make them even better, so that risk management process could be an iterative process to gather information on the most critical information requirements you have in order to succeed in your decision making and implementation, of course. But yeah, a little bit sort of vague and broad picture. But did you capture what I was looking after, Michael?
Definitely, yes. Yep.
And that's a great term, the risk-informed decision making. How often do you see, Michael, that organizations are good at that?
I would say that it's rare, but it does happen. And you know, looking at some of the global perspectives and cultural aspects on this, it varies around the world. The U.S. too often risk management is a Sarbanes-Oxley compliance exercise and not a strategic business value to the organization. Some of the most mature risk thinking historically has come out of Australia and South Africa, and of course Australia brought us the Australia-New Zealand 4360 risk management standard, which eventually became ISO 31000. But currently, to me, I find the most mature risk thinking coming out of Europe right at the moment, particularly the Nordics and the DACH region. I see a huge growth in enterprise risk management and GRC and strategic risk thinking, and some of that comes from some of the regulatory environment, because like in Germany, you've got the IDW PS340 risk audit standard, which requires risk normalization, aggregating, reporting up to the board level. And I've seen risk RFPs that are actually being led by the board of directors out of Germany for large global German companies. And so that's quite intriguing and interesting. But some of the most mature risk thinking that I'm seeing right now is coming out of Europe, particularly the DACH region of Europe and the Nordics right now, is where things are really starting to change and influence it on this. Some of the key challenges, one is manual processes, documents, spreadsheets, and emails. Good risk management cannot be done in spreadsheets. It's impossible. You know, one firm I was talking to did an internal study of their risk management resources and found that 80% of their staff time was actually spent managing documents, spreadsheets, and emails and not managing risk. It took so much time to like do the risk assessments. They're halfway done. You got to send them back and forth, aggregate, tabulate. You know, another firm is taking 200 hours to build a report for the board of directors on risk management every year because they had to aggregate, tabulate all these little silos of documents, spreadsheets, and emails. And they found out they had risk issues that started 11 months ago. They're out of control now. That's not managing risk. That's reacting to risk. You know, risk done in manual processes with documents, spreadsheets, and emails that don't provide you good real-time visibility and insight into risk are going to fail the organization. The other area where I see that organizations fail is lack of cooperation. And in that context, there's a lot of departments of risk. I've never met a chief risk officer that has every different risk function reporting to them directly. Indirectly, yes, but directly, no. You know, you have IT risk and HR risks and accounting and financial risks and project risks and insurable risks. There's a lot of departments and functions of risk management. And too often, you get one of those departments that digs in its heels, says, you guys do what you want, but we're doing our thing. And that can become a big issue because you don't get cooperation. A lot of times when a department doesn't want to cooperate in an enterprise risk strategy because they don't want to share how bad their processes and information is and disclose that. But we're all sort of in the same boat. And so that's another issue. A third issue that I can think of is when you have a chief risk officer type role, whether they have that title or not, that's supposed to lead an enterprise risk collaboration. But that chief risk officer operates with blinders on because, you know, he has all this, or he or she has all this experience in one domain of risk and fails to be able to engage the breadth of risk management. When you have a chief risk officer that can only really see like this piece of risk and not effectively engage these other departments and functions for full risk visibility, that's a failure as well. So in just review, I've talked about manual processes of documents, spreadsheets, and emails fail, lack of collaboration where departments don't want to participate in enterprise risk management, and the third one is the wrong leadership where somebody is the chief risk officer but can't really get other departments on board because they have such a siloed view of risk themselves.
Good points. I would add or maybe continue on that note on the risk ownership. That most often the responsibilities of the risk management sort of not the process necessarily, often also the process itself, but in terms of individual objectives and risks, people are unsure who's actually accountable and responsible over managing the risks, and the process is often failing to really sort of clarify that as well. And if that's not done well and in a sort of collaborative manner, it's easy for people to say that, well, this doesn't belong to me, it doesn't affect me, I'm not responsible, and then the risks might go unmanaged. But the same also goes with the identification, depending on the culture of the risk management culture, and of course the overall management culture of the organization. Are you mandated to actually identify, record, raise those issues, and actually start handling the issues in a systematic and analytical manner? I'm thinking that most of the challenges are often sort of management issues as well. Understanding what are your responsibilities and accountabilities in your own organization, especially in the more strategic issues, which are, of course, always shared objectives. And then, it's a little bit unclear who should be managing the risks.